Oi, gente, tudo bom com vocês? My name is David, and I'm talking to you from Rio de Janeiro in Copacabana about what I'm doing this year for my Heart Fellowship. What I'm doing is working with an organization called Catalytic Communities, which is the parent organization of RioOnWatch.org. And what we do is we try to use journalism and activism to change the way that narratives are constructed around favelas in the media, mostly international, because we believe that the international media has a really large effect on how policies are made and how the local government interacts with these communities. So by changing the way that they're perceived in the media, instead of being dirty and crime-ridden and such like that, and talking about their assets, such as their strong community, their strong sense of community, their sustainability, and other more positive aspects, we can change the way that the city government and the state government and ultimately the national government and the world sees these communities. When you're working in communities such as favelas with so many things going on, each favela has its own history, each favela has its own interaction with the police, each favela has its own culture, each favela has its own popular artists and music and such things like that, it's really hard to learn the complexities quickly. There's just such a huge learning curve about what these communities mean to the city, what they mean to the national identity of Brazil, to this city's identity as a whole. It's so inextricably linked that learning all this, obviously every day I'm still learning, and especially as an outsider, being able to take the time to understand and learn before going into these events and before going into the community is just really critical. And it's something that has been tough but really rewarding to learn how to do. So I did have to go home in the middle of my fellowship, which was quite a bummer. I was home for 2.5 months, and I was staying in my house in Northern Virginia, traveling around, and it was hard because I wasn't really sure when I was coming back. I had no idea when my visa was going to get approved. I also didn't really know kind of what my function was going to be while I was home for those 2 months, besides continuing to research and continuing to learn about these issues. And I was able to actually still write for Rio on Watch and do some really cool research articles and much longer pieces, but it was allowed me to come back to Rio with a much more invigorated sense of excitement for being here and for learning and jumping into things and starting my research. It gave me a time to really compare and contrast what it's like to live in the US and like to live here. I think having spent a lot of time in these favelas, I wonder what would it be like if people in the US were to construct neighborhoods that looked more like favelas instead of the single-family households that we see on a day-to-day basis throughout, the suburbs where I live. My favorite thing about this country and about Rio and about Brazil is the jeitinho brasileiro that represents everything that is alive in this country, everything that is alive in the city. You walk down the street and you hear samba, and you walk down the street and you see just the layers of history that exist. You see the contrasts. I'm literally looking out my window and looking at a favela, living in Copacabana, which is world famous for its beaches. There's just so much dumped onto the city that is full of life and music and vibrancy and energy, and there's also so much pain and suffering and history that is still not reconciled, and it's something that I think plagues the history of Brazil as well as many other countries in the world, the United States as well. But you feel it here, and it's something that I just really loved. You go to any type of event out at night and people are standing around drinking and just enjoying each other's company and listening to music, and there's no real sense of urgency, there's no real sense of time, you're just enjoying each other's company. And it's something that I've grown to love, and I think every week, every day, a little bit more of my heart I give to Rio.